Hi guys, I'm going to introduce the first speaker for today. He's the serial entrepreneur. He co-founded three companies, Crazy Egg, Gizmetrics, and Quicksprot. One was self-funded, two self-funded and one venture-backed. He also advised companies as LinkedIn, WordPress, Gusto, Buffer, and many more. So get up on your feet and bring a warm startup grind welcome for Hee-Dan Xiang.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Hi. Good morning. Good morning. I hope you're all clapping for yourselves and not me, because I don't deserve it. So today, I'm going to talk about the number one thing that every company has to figure out, which is marketing channels. So I know it's early in the morning, and I'm going to talk about something seemingly boring, but I'm going to make it as exciting as I can. So I'm going to jump right in. First of all, there's Albert Einstein, and one of my favorite quotes from him, which is basically, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So the good news here is that I'm actually going to do a Q&A a little bit later, in about an hour or so from now. It's at another location a couple blocks away. And so if anything I say today, right now, isn't simple enough, you don't understand it, or you think that I can be simpler about it or help you through it, please come to the Q&A, and I will be more than happy to answer your questions, as many of them as I can, because of this quote and what I truly believe about it. So everything I say should be so simple that you should be able to apply it right away, regardless of what type of business you are. So what you're going to learn in about the next 20 minutes is, one, the simplest way that I've ever discovered to find marketing channels that I've used over and over again. It doesn't matter if you're just starting out or you need a new marketing channel, because the one you have is either you're bored with it, it's running out, or someone else's competition is coming into it. And another last thing that I'm going to share is how to prioritize marketing channels, just based on the fact that you have a lot of tools out there and a lot of data to look at. I'm going to give you a simple way to do that as well. I kind of like emoji. Anybody else like emoji? Yeah. All right. So there'll be a bunch of emoji. Feel free to critique it in the Q&A if you'd like. So first of all, finding marketing channels. So it'd be nice if the clicker worked, right? Oh, wow. All right, so I'm going to stay on this slide for a while until the clicker works. Okay, there we go. Oh, back. There we go. Okay, just wanted to make sure it was working. So what is a marketing channel? It's probably a good question. Many of you are probably wondering. A quick story on this is I have a business partner that I work with, and she comes from consumer product goods. And when I started using the word marketing channel, she got very confused. She's a very smart person. She got very confused. She's like, what's that? And so I wanted to explain it really simply, because a lot of folks in software and tech and in our industry kind of get this terminology, but it's not something that I've ever heard really explained really well and really simply. So a marketing channel is pretty simple to me. And again, I was challenged with explaining this, and I stumbled for a while, and I came up with this, which is basically, it just brings new people to your product. It doesn't matter what kind of product it is. That's what a marketing channel does. And it doesn't even matter what kind of marketing channel it is, which I'll get into a lot deeper soon. But it's just this idea that these things exist that allow you to bring people to your website, to your application, or you get them to the liquor store that sells the alcohol if you're an alcohol brand. So it's very simple. That's the way I like to describe it. And this talk's supposed to be about finding the right marketing channels. So before I continue and actually tell you and teach you something, instead of just ramble with emojis and questions, how many of you think you've found the right marketing channel for your business? Don't care what kind of business it is. Nobody? Some of you? Okay, cool. So this talk should be really actionable for all of you, especially considering it's the morning and none of you are probably paying attention to me. The emoji help though, right? So okay, I'm going to jump right in. So there's a framework, because I like making stuff up, if you haven't noticed. And this framework is a 3 questions marketing framework. And it's something that I've distilled down off of marketing a lot of my own businesses and helping a ton of other people. And we're going to go through these 3 questions with some examples of sort of how you can do it, just using 3 of my businesses. So the first business is Crazy Egg. Do any of you know Crazy Egg? All right, cool. About a third of the room. No, I'm kidding. It's like a tenth of the room. No, was it half the room? Anyways, this is one of my oldest businesses. It's called Crazy Egg. It was created in 2005. And so it's 12 years old this year. It's fully self-funded. And, I'm supposed to be humble and stuff like that, but it makes money. And it's definitely a great business for us. And it's one of the first businesses that was a software service business that doesn't have a sales team. So we still don't have a sales team, and it's a very small team internally at the company, and it just keeps growing. And one of the reasons it keeps growing the way it is because of what we discovered early on in terms of our one marketing channel that we use that we actually continue to use. So people love the Crazy Egg MVP. This is actually WordPress's homepage. And they use our heat map. And this is from about 2005, 2006. Actually, it says April 12th, 2006. So this is super early. This was a WordPress homepage. All of you know what WordPress is, right? All right, cool. So they became an early user of ours before we even had paid plans because of the marketing strategy we used. And one of the key things about this product is it just creates these beautiful heat maps. I'm actually pretty impressed by seeing this old heat map. This is one of our first heat maps on the screen this big, but this is essentially all the product does still today. That's going to change this year, and it just creates these heat maps. So here's what we did. Or actually, here's what the problem we had was. So back in the day, when we started Crazy Egg, it was very difficult technically to track every click on a web page. So all you do is you put this little JavaScript on your website, and our whole value proposition is that we track every click on the page and let you essentially see it with that visual representation. Now, to do that back then, we needed thousands of websites using us so we could figure out all the issues. Because back then was when this thing called Ajax that we don't use anymore was coming out. Anyone remember Ajax? Okay, all right. So we had to deal with all this crap. It was all technical, and we needed a lot of people using it even before we publicly launched it and started charging people. So that was our dilemma. And what we were able to do with this strategy, and this is back in 2005 and 2006, this was our homepage, roughly speaking. It had a little more copy on it, and we were able to get 23,000 pre-launch signups. This is 12 years ago. This is something that people do all the time, and these numbers might not sound super big right now, but back then they were really large, and there just weren't that many websites out there as there are today, because again, it's a dozen years later. So first question we asked, again, with the 3-question framework is, who's our target customer? So back then, what we realized is that the people who needed to understand analytics, but yet were inundated with these numbers and bar graphs and math in Google Analytics were the folks who were designers and who really didn't care to understand the numbers, but they did understand what I call pretty pictures. So we wanted to give them pretty pictures, so we chose them as a really early demographic. And the next question we needed to answer was, where do they hang out? And so in our case, what we learned back then was there were a bunch of design communities. Does anyone at all remember 9 Rules? Okay, one person, yes. So 9 Rules was a network of essentially designers. It was a community. And we actually, as marketers, so my co-founder and I were marketers, if anything, and we fandangled our way into that community just by being cool. And we really cared about design too, and having great designs. And then what we also learned is that designers also hung out at CSS galleries. So CSS galleries, back then when CSS and making sites with CSS, not Flash, was a really big deal, and it was a trend, early trend, we were able to realize that these people were hanging out at those galleries too. So that's what we did, and then how do you engage them? We just helped them be awesome. In our case, our product helped them be awesome, so it was really easy to talk to them about what our product did, how it worked, and how much we love design and wanted to help them make better websites. So it was that simple for us, and these 3 things are what resulted in all the growth in that business for a dozen years and the word of mouth that we got. Next up is Kissmetrics, and I'm going to talk about that. So how many of you know Kissmetrics? Okay, cool. More hands. All right. Getting better at this. So Kissmetrics, people really love the MVP. This is actually one of the first, this is actually the first interface we had. It was just this little funnel tool. And many of you probably don't know the product itself. It's changed quite a bit. This was launched back in 2009. And in the early days, we had this great product because we had figured out this analytics problem with funnels and tracking data. So the product was great, but we couldn't spend money to grow it. Even though we had raised some venture capital, there was really big competitors like Omniture, now Adobe Marketing Cloud, and a whole slew of companies that were spending a lot of money on Google AdWords. And they were spending up to $18 per click, so that just wasn't going to work for us. And one thing that many of you probably are thinking is that, oh, Kissmetrics, it has a popular blog, because I'm sure many of you know the business because of the blog. But that's actually not how we started our marketing. What we did is, obviously, online marketers are the people that were using analytics at the time, so that was our main target audience. One thing that we discovered, and this was not like something where we came up with it overnight and we're like, oh, Twitter's where marketers hang out. We actually had a very long list, I want to say like maybe 100 to 200 different places where our online marketers hung out. So there's many forums that they hung out on. They hung out on dig.com. They went to meetups and events, and Twitter was on the list. Twitter was really early at that time, maybe a couple of years into their business. And we noticed something about Twitter. What we noticed is that people were using hashtags. And there's this hashtag called measure. Are any of you familiar with that hashtag? Cool, it's not that important anymore. But back then, it was super important. The reason is every online marketer that was an early adopter of tools was using this hashtag on Twitter to share links and talk about online marketing and analytics and things like that. So what we discovered was something other people hadn't, which was we can use this hashtag and attract those people. So we actually created our Twitter account before we even had our blog, which helped us get a ton of early traffic to our blog. Our Twitter account's not that important anymore for so many reasons. One being Twitter is not growing as a business. But back then, Twitter was growing really fast, so it made sense as an early channel. So one of the lessons here is just that you have to dig in and answer these questions, make a long list, and go figure out what an opportunity is that makes sense for you, that helps you find sort of a new channel and something that other people might not be looking at. So all we did is everything we tweeted, we used this hashtag. And what happened is all these online marketers would retweet us, and they'd start following us. And it was a very organic way for us to grow the following. So we really figured out how to engage with them. And this one is like, this question, I'm jumping right into it because it's really near and dear to my heart today. Those two businesses, Crazy Egg was started in 2005, Kissmetrics was started in 2008, and I've started other businesses since then and helped a lot of people do the same. And one of the new trends is this idea of marketing channels being built into your product. And I'm going to explain it because many folks might not think of this, but when you go look at like the app on Postmates or the Uber app or all these mobile apps out there, one of the key marketing channels they have is basically referrals. So has anyone ever referred someone to one of these apps and made some money? Yeah? Okay. Some of you? Many of you? Okay. I have. I make a lot of money on that. I'll just go post something and then people will sign up using my link and then I'll get $20 credit for Uber or Lyft or whatever it may be. And so this is what I would call a product-based marketing channel. It sits in your product. You can tap on that little tab in the mobile app and then all of a sudden you're able to share. And in fact, recently, Amazon has even started using the same tactic. I opened the app one day because, Amazon. And all of a sudden, there's a screen that takes over the page, and it basically is asking me to refer a friend to Amazon. I'm like, all my friends already use Amazon. But even Amazon's trying this tactic, so I call it a product-based tactic, and I'm going to give an example of one that I used. So anyone remember Kiss Insights at all? Okay, good. All right, because we sold it and all kinds of stuff, but I'm going to get into that. So this was Kiss Insights. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the little pop-ups that come on your website and ask you a question. You're like visiting a website, all of a sudden on the bottom right, there's this pop-up. It usually looks like a little black and gray. Well, we invented that. And a lot of other people have copied it since, just like heat maps and just like the way we did funnels. But it was the first tool to do that. I know that because I helped create it. And there's nothing else out there like it, so that was really cool. So people actually loved the product just from the beginning. And we had a problem there as well. This was a second product at Kissmetrics. We were building it when we really couldn't pay attention to Kissmetrics because one of our engineers had to go and rebuild the backend because it was an analytics tool and we had too many users at the time against something really MVP that we had created. So what we decided to do was test a new product. We thought we were going to build a survey tool and compete with SurveyMonkey, but then we realized this opportunity, and we still had a problem, which was we wanted to find a way for the business to grow itself, just because our product at Kissmetrics needed a lot more effort to grow. We needed to do Twitter and blogging and all these other things, and we wanted to find a way to put this into the product itself. So what we did is we basically were able to get, this is kind of the story of the product, but we were able to get 25,000 signups all without any paid marketing. I wouldn't say we didn't do any marketing. We definitely did some marketing, but it was product-based marketing. And now what we call product-based marketing is like a growth loop, in case anyone wants to Google it and look into it. And then we were able to grow the business, sell the business for a profit, and also they changed the name to Qualaroo, and it exists today, and it's actually been acquired again. So the thing keeps moving on, and everyone's been making money down the line, so it's great. So I'm going to tell you how we did that. So the first question in the 3 questions marketing framework is, who's your target customer? In our case, it was actually product people and online marketers, because we were really creating this tool for people that wanted to ask questions, do surveying, and understand their customers better, which happened to be product people, people creating products, web-based products, and online marketers. Where do they hang out? And this one was really cool. When we started really talking to a lot of product managers and even marketers, they oftentimes went to other people's sites to get inspired. And so what we learned there is that they're actually hanging out a lot of their time on other people's sites. They're, looking at competitors' copy, or looking at new features someone else has launched, or getting inspired by some blog that they're reading. And so what we decided to do was what I call put a badge on it. It's not as cool as putting a ring on it, but we put a badge on it. And so we just did this little thing. So every time it popped up, it said powered by Kiss Insights. And now they've iterated it, and we even iterated it, and now it says not using Kiss Insights ? And that actually spurs more curiosity and people click it. But this was really powerful because we were able to drive, for every view that we got, we were able to drive a lot of clicks as well to people who came and signed up. And that resulted in 25,000 actual signups to our site just because of this powered by. And this is a lot more common tactic now, but this is something we did back in 2009 when we really had this urgency to kind of spend the least amount of money on marketing, least amount of effort, and bake it into our product. And again, these things are called growth loops. And if you're not familiar with them, if you have a product, a service, anything like that, think about how you can bake it in to your product, to your business, right in there. And so I'm going to show you how to do that now. So again, the 3 questions marketing framework: who's your target customer? Where do they hang out? How do you engage them? And I've got a bunch of tips. So just when you're answering this question, there's a bunch of other questions you can come to that can be really helpful. Because oftentimes we build our products and don't think as hard about these questions. So number 1, what does your product actually do? This was really helpful for us because it helped us actually write down what it does. What problem does it solve? So again, what it does and the problem it solves aren't always related. So you want to break it down into those 2 categories. And then who wants this problem solved? And that can really help you identify who is the right person you should be targeting. And then with the where do they hang out, this is very easy, but requires a couple hours usually, at least, with your team, where you create a list of all the places, both online and offline, where your customers might be hanging out. And then you establish a criteria for your ideal marketing channel. So for us, it was, with Crazy Egg, it was like we really needed those early adopters, right? We knew they were designers. So then we went out there and found the communities and the other places that they hung out. And then you vet your list according to that criteria, and then you'll be able to narrow it down. Ideally, you will find 1 or 2 marketing channels that can be really impactful for you. I know this is work, and I'm telling you in the morning you need to do work, but someone has to do that. So the last one is, how do you engage them? And so this is where, when we figured out for Kissmetrics, it was Twitter. We started doing a lot of hashtag searches and all kinds of stuff like that to help us understand exactly what hashtag we can use or what method we can use to share links and stuff like that. Then we researched it deeply. We focused in on our actual target customer, and then we just focused on delivering a ton of value. So with all the channels that we figured out, we knew that we had to add value, and we knew that it had to be a channel where we were able to do that, either for free or with very little effort. Because for most startups, most companies, especially early on, you want to spend the least amount of money on marketing and more of it on your actual business. Okay, so in the couple minutes I have left, I'm going to talk about testing really briefly and give you a framework. So, I talked about marketing channels and how they bring people to your business, your product. Now I'm going to talk about your website and what its job is, or your app. And the whole job there is to convert people. And as of today, this is a marketing technology landscape. Have any of you seen this before? Okay, awesome, great. It's one of my favorite pictures because a bunch of my logos for my businesses are in there, as well as companies I've advised and invested, but you won't find them looking at this. But there's just a lot of tools out there you can use for marketing. That's the TLDR of this statement. There's actually about 3,800 as of last year. I bet the number's now over 5,000. They haven't made their new marketing landscape yet. I'll bet because they're not going to, because there's just so many, and I don't know how you could fit it in a graphic anymore. But anyways, it went from 150, literally 6 years ago, to 3,500. So the growth is crazy. And what I want to show you is how you can look at any of these tools and just start understanding where your opportunities are for marketing. So you find in Google Analytics, find your landing pages or any pages you're looking at, and find pages with high traffic and a high bounce rate. Because people are coming, lots of them are coming, but they're leaving. So that's a big opportunity for you to improve those pages. In a tool like Unbounce or landing pages, find pages with high traffic and low conversion. Because they're getting a lot of traffic, but people aren't converting. And I promise there's a point to all of this. And then in something like HubSpot, you have a lot of sources, but some of them are converting less than others. So again, high traffic, low conversion rate. This is how you find the opportunities. And I got this beautiful graph. I'm going to walk you through it real quick. But basically, all the opportunities I was talking about are all in the left quadrant, where you have a lot of traffic, you have low conversions. So in that case, you're trying to increase the conversions. You can run A/B testing, do usability tests, and just improve those pages or those parts of your product. And then you can do a happy dance, but you have to watch it closely once you're in that quadrant. Now, if you're all the way over there and you have high conversions on a channel or a place where you're getting traffic, but it's low traffic, you have to get more traffic so you can move it up. And then if you're right here, I feel really sorry for you, because you have low traffic and low conversion, you got a lot of work to do. And that's the worst quadrant to be in with all of your channels. It's actually where most of us start. And you got to figure out, can I convert it better? Or can I go get more traffic? Because the other two are better, and obviously that one's the best. So your whole goal with marketing channels or any kind of analytics or landing pages or anything like that is get it to the top right and make sure you watch it. And there's a template in here. I'm sure these slides will be available as well. And in case, here's a quick summary. So in the last 20 minutes, I jammed through a simple way to find marketing channels. I just gave you a way to prioritize things and figure out what to do. And there's been a bunch of emoji, maybe not enough. I'm kind of disappointed in myself. And that's my Twitter handle, and that's my Gmail. If you email me, I will do my best to get back to you for anything. And there's a Q&A in about a half hour or something that I'm going to show up at. So thank you.